What's going on, Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel fans? It's your boy Cal Life here, bringing you another Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel video, and today we are going to be talking about the Spright Runicks. I am going to go into a full breakdown on how to play this deck and what you really want to be going for, and then I'm going to show the combo line that should be your bread and butter, basically. So the deck is pretty linear, but basically if I was to break down the cards, right? The main cards that you are going to end up using is Wind-Up Kitten, your Ipiria, and then your Capshell. These cards are actually really good in the main deck, okay? And so the reason is Wind-Up Kitten is a card when it's summoned onto the field, right? You can use this effect at any point to go ahead and actually return a card to the opponent's hand. Meanwhile, you also have Ipiria, where you can just go ahead and summon this, normal summon, special summon, and you automatically get to draw a card, which is only a once per turn. And then we have Capshell. Capshell has multiple different effects, but they all equal drawing one card. Basically, you can go ahead and tribute the card, you get to draw one card. You can use it as a material for a Fusion Synchro or Link, which is how you can go into your Spright Elf, and you can also go ahead and draw a card. And then also, if this card is detached from an XYZ monster to activate a monster's effect, you can draw one card. So each time these two cards will get you one card, so it always is a +1. And now we have Spright Blue. Spright Blue is probably your best card in your deck. Actually, it is the best card in the deck, because what it does is it is basically the one card combo. When you summon out your Spright Blue special summoning wise, you can automatically go ahead and add any Spright monster from your deck to your hand. Usually you want to go ahead and add the Spright Jet, because then Jet will be able to go ahead and special summon itself and adding yourself one of your Spright spell or trap cards. So you can add yourself a Spright Starter, or you can add yourself the Spright Smashers. And if you decide that you want to play the other Spright card, which is going to be Spright Gamma Burst, you can also add that. Unfortunately, right now the trap isn't in the game, which does suck, but it is what it is. Other than Spright Starter, we have Spright Red. Spright Red is basically your monster negate. You go ahead and tribute a level 2 level or link monster, and you can go ahead and negate a monster effect while it's in the hand, on the field, or in the grave. Then you have your Spright Carrot, which is a spell trap negate. It basically does what Spright Red does, except for spell and traps. Now, one of my main deck cards that I really enjoy is Thunder King Rai-Oh. Rai-Oh is such a good card, especially when you pair it with Mannequin Cat. Basically, what happens is Thunder King Rai-Oh, when it's on the field, your opponent and you, keep that in mind, you and your opponent cannot add cards to your hand unless it's by drawing. And this is not a problem when it comes to Runick Spright, because of the fact that Runick Fountain is going to allow you to always draw cards. Since it's not adding cards to your hand, it's just drawing cards. Okay, so when you activate your Runick cards, you're going to be able to draw and go +3. Meanwhile, your opponent can only add cards by drawing. He's not going to be able to activate the power of Source or Emergence. He wouldn't be able to activate the power of the AI land, Igniter, Field Spell, whatever it's called, or anything that adds a card to your hand, right? Live Twins won't be able to add a card to their hand either with the Sunny Snitch, so keep that in mind. Then we do collate 2 copies of Lava Golem. Lava Golem is so we can get rid of the mirror match, or just get rid of any problematic cards. Some people are teching this at 3. I decided to tech it at 2 because I don't want to go over 43 cards. I kind of wish I could get this down to 40, but unfortunately we have to play Maxx C's in Master Duel, so it does suck. Now we're moving on to basically the Runick package. We have the Runick Fountain. Runick Fountain is literally one of the greatest field spells that's ever existed. It allows you to activate quick spells from your hand that are Runicks, and then if you have any Runick spell card in your graveyard, you can go and use this effect to go ahead and draw by sending that card back into the deck. So if you have 1, 2, or 3, you can either draw 1 card, 2 cards, or 3 cards, depending on what you send back into the deck. We do have 3 copies of Runick Tip. Runick Tip is basically how you can go ahead and add any Runick card to your hand along with your field spell. You can also use it to go ahead and summon out any of your Runick monsters from the extra deck. Finally, we have Runick Flashing Fire. This is a card that is able to go ahead and destroy a special summoned monster while also milling 2 cards from the deck, or special summoning a Runick monster. But I'm pretty sure you guys all know what Runicks do by now. Everybody hates Runicks, but it is what it is, right? We got to talk about it. We now have Runick Destruction. Runick Destruction is basically your spell trap destruction, and then you get to mill 4 cards or banish 4 cards from the top of their deck. And then we do have Runick Freezing Curses. I think this is probably my favorite one because this is a effect negate. So negating an effect on the field is just really, really good. And then on top of that, I believe you get to banish 3 cards on the top of your opponent's deck. We do now finally have Runick Slumber. I mostly use Runick Slumber so I can keep my Spright monsters alive. Because what Runick Slumber does is you're not able to destroy that monster for the first time that turn. So if they try to attack it, they would have to attack it again to finally destroy it. So this is just like a little protection. The only drawback is you won't be able to attack this turn with that card. But honestly, if you're activating any Runicks, you're not going to be able to go into your battle phase anyways. And most of the time, you're going to be activating this card on your opponent's turn when they're going into the battle. Finally, we have Smiting. Smiting is here just so we can banish some cards from their deck up to the number of cards that they control, or we use it as an extender to get a Runick monster onto the field. And then for the last Runick card, we are playing Droplet. Droplet is a card where you get to have your opponent draw 1 card, but then you banish 4 cards from the top of their deck as well. Fantastic card. It helps you mill and it helps you extend. And then, like I said, guys, this is called Spright Starter. Spright Starter is basically you're able to go ahead and special summon any of your Spright monsters from your deck to the field, and then you have to lose life points equal to that monster's attack. So if you decide to summon Carrot, you have to lose 1,000 life points. If you summon Red, 1,200, and then Jet, 13, and then finally Blue being 11. Spright Smashers is probably just such a good card. It's actually really weird that this card is rare. I thought it would be a super rare, so I'm happy that they made it a rare. But basically, this is just a way to deal with certain cards on the field, because what you would do, you would banish a card from your grave and then banish one of your level, rank, or link 2 monsters on the field, and then banish one of your opponent's cards. So it could be a spell, it could be a trap, it could be a floodgate, it could be a field spell, it could be a monster, and it's not a destruction. And then on top of that, it's not a target, it's just a banish. So it is able to avoid certain type of effects. And then finally, we could get into the extra deck. Now my extra deck is a little, wonky, I guess, compared to some other people's. So basically, we're playing 3 Huggins. Huggins is basically the card you want to use to extend at all point in time. Huggin is going to allow you to go ahead and basically discard 1 card and get your Fountain into your hand. And this is really good because if you already have Runick Fountain on the field, you can use Huggin to basically chain block for your draw 3. Another thing that it does is it's able to help avoid destruction of your cards on the field as well by banishing it from the field. We are playing 1 copy of Gary, and the reason we're playing 1 copy of Gary is going to allow us to basically bring back our Runick Fountain in case it's in the graveyard. Runick Fountain is really important in this deck, so keep that in mind. That's why we're playing Gary. If you're wondering why we're not playing more than 1 Gary, it's because of the fact that Gary is a level 4 monster and most of our stuff are level 2s, and we need it to be level 2s. But it does have its positives, as it's able to destroy a card on the field if it is destroyed, and then it can't be destroyed by basically card effects. And on top of that, it's able to go ahead and get yourself your Runick Fountain. Now moving on from the fusions into the XZs, we're playing Djinn Buster. Now the Djinn is really good because you basically can make this card free half the time, actually all the time, and it's basically a negate for your monsters. So if your opponent decide to go ahead and activate a card, you just remove 2 of your overlays, and then you can go ahead and negate that, and then you do 500 damage. Now we are playing Mannequin Cat. Mannequin Cat, I think everyone should be playing this card if you are playing Spright in some type of way, because this card is basically a way for you to go ahead and basically summon anything from your hand, graveyard, or deck based on what your opponent has in their graveyard. So let's say your opponent has a Ash Blossom in the graveyard, you basically activate this effect, special summon their Ash Blossom to their field in attack or defense, whichever one you choose, and then based on the attribute or the type, you can special summon one card from your deck that's similar to that. So because Spright Carrot is a fire type, you can special summon Spright Carrot from your graveyard, deck, or hand, right? Another thing that I like to use it for, especially if your opponent has a light monster like Effect Veiler or any light monster, you can use it to summon out Thunder King Rai-Oh from your hand, extra deck, or grave. So keep that in mind. And then we have Onibaru, I don't even know how to say it. Bamaru. I'm struggling right now, man. But anyway, Soul Sweeper. It's really late, but basically Soul Sweeper is a way for you to go ahead and detach one material from your overlays, and you get to banish your opponent's card until the end of their opponent's turn, so, which is super good. So it can set up basically a play to like get OTK if you need to, or just a way to just remove a troublesome card for the time being until you can deal with it later. Now we are playing two Gigantic Sprites. Gigantic Sprite is such a good card. Basically, you get to summon this. This card would then let you summon any level 2 any level 2 monster from the deck. And then on top of that, if you use a Link Fusion or XC monster, you can go ahead and basically doubles attack to 3200 based on what you have. So it's really nice, but it would have to stay as attached to the material. Another thing that it does is it also limits your opponent from being able to activate Nibiru or any card that lets them summon a card higher than a level 2, Link 2, or XV2. So think about that. So this stops Nib. We are playing Maschiana. Maschiana is going to help us get into basically the Unicorn or the Avermax. And then on top of that, we are playing Dharc. Gloomy is such a good card. Basically, you can just use this just to extend. This card right here can go ahead and make yourself a Gigantic Sprite as long as you just go ahead and special summon a monster from the grave that is a Dharc, because it's just easy like that. Then we have Spright Elf. Spright Elf basically allows you to special summon any level 2 monster in the graveyard to the field once per turn. And then on top of that, if the cards are pointing to the Spright Elf, right, then they cannot be targeted. And then finally we have Unicorn. Unicorn, detach one card, send a card back to the deck. And then on top of that, what it does, if you have it co-linked, then you could also draw one card. And then Avermax, you already know what Avermax does. But anyways, this is the deck. I'm sorry that this took so long to explain, but let's see if we can get into at least some form of combo video. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, so right now, as you guys can see, we start out with Jet with flashing, and then Runick Fountain and Spright Starter. So basically we have full combo. I'm actually just gonna go ahead and activate this Maxx C just to get it out of the way, so I don't have to deal with the constant effect. But anyways, what you're going to want to do, we can start off by activating Runick Fountain, and then from here we can use the flashing fire to go ahead and summon out ourselves a Huggin. Now by summoning Huggin, we can then start extending. So right here, we're going to actually activate the power of Runick Fountain. Runick Fountain is going to allow us to add one card to the hand, and we end up getting a Wind-Up Kitten, which is really good. So here we can then go into Spright Jet. Spright Jet will activate its effect, allowing us to go ahead and get ourselves the Spright Smashers. Since we already have Spright Starter, we can then activate Spright Starter here, and we're going to go into activating Blue. Blue will activate this effect, allowing us to grab a monster. So since we already have Jet, we can probably grab either Red or Carrot. It all decides what you want to do. If you want to negate a monster, you grab Red. If you want to negate a spell trap, you grab Carrot. I usually like to grab Carrot just in case they have Imperm. So at this point, I do summon out the Carrot here. And now what we're going to do is take the Huggin, and we're going to take Spright Jet. And we're going to go ahead and overlay. And as you guys can see, because Huggin is a fusion monster, we get a double attack points. So now I'm going to actually detach our Jet. Jet is then, Gigantic Spright is going to allow us to summon out any level 2 monster. So as you can see here, I'm actually going to summon out Ipiria. And what that's going to do is allow us to grab a card, which is actually going to be a Runick Smiting, which means our combo is able to extend once again, which means I can go into another Huggin. And this is what's so good about this deck is it's the fact that you could just keep extending. So right here, I'm actually going to activate Huggin's ability. We're going to detach our Wind-Up Kitten because honestly, we don't really need it in our hand, and we're able to go ahead and get the new Runick Fountain into our hand, which is super cool. So from here, we can go ahead and now take the power of Huggin and also take the power of Ipiria. This way, we're able to go ahead and summon out Spright Elf. Now, Spright Elf is protecting both Blue and the power of Gigantic Spright because they are pointing to it. And at this point, we are now going to go ahead and summon out the Jet. But honestly, you can summon out any level 2 monster. And at this point, it's really up to you on what you want to do. If you want to go into a monster negate, you can go into a monster negate. If you want to go into mannequins, you can go into mannequins. I personally like going into mannequin. And there's a reason I prefer mannequins instead, is because of the fact that now with mannequins, when the opponent special summons a monster, what is going to happen is you can then target that monster, right, and special summon a card from your deck. So at this point, we end our turn. So now the opponent, unfortunately, is going to, since it's a computer, is going to put something face down. But at this point, since it's main phase, we can actually go ahead and summon out Ipiria. Ipiria will allow us to draw 1 card. And look at that, we actually end up grabbing into the freezing curses. And then this also gives your Carrot a way for you to be able to like negate a spell or trap. So right here, what we can do once again is we can activate the power of Gigantic Spright. So we activate Gigantic Spright. Gigantic Spright will lose its buff, but it's going to be okay because at this point now we can go into the power of like a mask if we wanted to. So let's do that. Let's get rid of the Gigantic Spright. Go into a Maskiana. And as you can see, Capshell allows you to go ahead and draw a card because we linked off. And we end up getting into a Runick Destruction, which is super cool. And at this point, like I said, I can show you if we summon out the Kitten then can activate its ability, get rid of this card. They are going to activate a spell and trap. So this is actually perfect because this will showcase the power of this. So now at this point, we can use the power of Spright Carrot and negate a spell and trap. And it's just as easy as that. And Wind-Up Kitten is able to do what it does. But because we activated a Runick card, we cannot attack. So you would mostly just plan around that. As you guys can see, now we do have the power of Maskiana. We are going to now go into this. This is going to allow us to draw 1 more card. And as you can see, this deck is just really crazy because you're just constantly getting whatever you want. And then look, you still have your Spright Smashers, you still have 4 cards in your hand. It's just actually ridiculous. And then look, you have all these Runicks, so for extra draws. And now I can show you what Mannequin does. So as you guys can see, I can get rid of this card and we can summon out one card here. So I'm gonna just basically banish a card so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So we could get rid of probably the Wind-Up Kitten. So as you see, we end up summoning out their dragon card, right? And now we can activate Mannequin Cat. Mannequin Cat will select that, and because it's a Dharc or a dragon, we can then summon out any of these Dharc type attribute monsters. So right here it's going to be the Capshell. We can then use Capshell here to go into Onibaru. And this is why this deck is so crazy, because now we can use Onibaru, we can get rid of the Ipiria, send this card being banished, then we can activate Spright Elf. Spright Elf summon out the Ipiria once again, and look, that's another draw. So do you guys see what I'm talking about? This deck is actually crazy. And then from here, if we wanted to, we could go into like the power of Avermax at any point in time. But yeah, it's honestly just a really good deck, and I think this definitely might be a top tier deck. So anyways guys, thank you all for tuning in. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you guys think? How do you guys think I did on this guide? Hopefully it was very instructional and you guys were able to learn something. But yeah, I'm signing out. Thank you all for tuning in. See ya.